Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the weekly energy boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here this morning with Squeaky David. And we are here to share with you this morning the spiritual energy forecast according to the wisdom of Kabbalah. This week, the universe is giving us the opportunity to strengthen our certainty, meaning there are going to be gifts of certainty as well as tests of certainty. And we want to share with you the best methods, the best practices for not only taking advantage of the opportunities this week, but using this week as a catapult to take us to a higher level of certainty, especially in these uncertain times. What we want to ask from you to help us, as you do every week, is to share with us the things that trigger your uncertainty. We want to speak to those things. If you're watching live, you can do that in the comments. And if you're watching a replay or listening to a podcast, you can email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com, and we will address those as we can. David, I don't know about you, but driving here this morning, I was
what are some powerful concepts that you got about certainty?
well, I've been thinking about it for a few days, actually. Every week we take time. I know that the moment I start to focus on the topic of the week, the universe throws me beautiful, not only personal lessons, of course, but also, stories, newspaper articles, people texting me, emailing me, calling me with different situations. And one of the things that I saw this week in Living Color is how our fears or our worries or the doubts that we have, which are the opposite of certainty, are actually create separation between us and other people. I think more in this time than at least that I've seen recently. There's certain people who because of what's going on are afraid or worried or are concerned, and there's all the evidence in the world for them to be concerned. And there's other people like you mentioned often on the last few shows, there are people who are thriving, and that doesn't mean they're doing risky things, but they're not allowing the limitations to confine them physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally.
Right. Well, I think this goes back to the premise of what the whole foundation of Kabbalah is built on, which is that your consciousness determines your reality. And what's going on in your head, what's going on with your thoughts, will eventually affect and create the entire movie that you call your life. And that needs to be a starting point for all of us on the spiritual journey, because the way that the opponent, a negative force that is there with all of us trying to help us earn the light of the Creator, what the opponent does is it tries to make everything else more important than my controlling of my thoughts, or what we call our consciousness. My consciousness is the way I think about the world, the way I perceive certain situations, what I believe about certain situations. So let's say that let's break it down to two types of consciousness. There's the consciousness of certainty, and then there's the consciousness of doubt. And that pretty much means that when I see something or I interact with someone, what's going on in my head? Am I thinking about how this is bad, how this is going to hurt me? Do I have doubts? Am I split into like 100 different places? Am I unfocused? Am I being judgmental? Am I listening to my own fears that are controlling the way I feel and think and whatnot? So the consciousness of certainty basically is you telling yourself all day long, it's a mantra, all day long. There's three levels. One, I have certainty that everything comes from the Creator. I have certainty that everything is for my ultimate good, even though I don't see it. And I have certainty that this situation or whatever's going on is there to help me improve and to transform. Whenever I have these three levels of certainty, it's from the Creator, it's good, it's here to help me improve, you're unstoppable. This is rock solid consciousness. This is the consciousness of successful people. That's where I wanted to start with.
Well, I think we need to make a distinction between certainty and confidence, or what we call certainty and, I don't know, confidence. Or, I think that it's easy to say, well, yeah, I know that this person is the right person for me, or I know this job is the right job for me, or I know I can do it. Kabbalistically, that's not certainty. That's confidence, or believing in someone or something. Certainty, according to Kabbalah, is the conviction that whatever is going on is for the best. There is a system of cause and effect, and I know that even if whatever's going on right now doesn't feel good, is uncomfortable, awakens my lack, my fears, my doubts, I know that it's leading me to the best possible scenario. It's perfect for me. That the spiritual system is perfect. And that, I think for me, it's helpful to remember that all of the people in my life are like actors in my movie, right? This is the metaphor that we give often in the beginning classes of Kabbalah, because it really helps translate our challenges into opportunities, right? If you look at your life as a movie and you're the main actor or actress, and all the people in your movie are actors that are hired to play a part in the movie, and the plot of the movie is to get you to be the best version of you, to be the most powerful, the most successful, the most happy, the most healthy. And all of the people there are basically hired by the producer, who is the light force of the creator, to make sure you get there. So the person that's pushing your buttons is there for your greater good, not to ruin your day. Our choice in that moment is to choose the higher response, the more elevated response, the response that our soul is pushing us toward, which is, you can push, and I can choose a proactive way to respond. And depending on the person, I can't tell you what the actual response would be, but the fact of the matter is that if I have certainty in the fact that this person who's pushing my buttons is there to get me to my next level, I remember that whatever I'm going through isn't between me and the other person, it's between me and the creator. And that's a really important aspect, I think, of maintaining certainty, is that I don't want to make it between me and the other person. I want, like you always say, I'm the only person on the planet.
Right.
And maybe you can refresh our memory about what that means, but it's really about that mindset of this is just for me, and it's between me and the creator.
So we're making the case here that there's two frequencies, and only two. Either you're in this powerful, abundant, happy place of certainty, even though physically things aren't going your way. We know that the physical reality will follow your certainty eventually. Or you are in the victim lacking state of consciousness, which is of worry and doubt, even though sometimes we think that if we worry about something, we're helping it. If I worry about my child, I'm actually being a good parent. If I'm worrying about my business, then I'm being a good business owner. This is false. It poisons whatever you worry about. So we're making the case that there's only two forms of consciousness. We want to shift to that frequency of certainty. How do we get there? There's a couple steps that I've laid out here to share of how you achieve that abundant consciousness, because I think we all want it. We associate certainty with peace of mind. We are attracted to people who have certainty. We know that even if you have certainty about something negative, you're more likely to achieve it than someone who has doubts about something positive. Certainty is the manifesting tool. Person with certainty makes things happen. Person with certainty is aligned with the light of the creator. So how do you get to certainty? So what I wrote here is that simplicity leads to certainty. When you are simple and not complicated, you are on a path to certainty. Most people who have doubts and fears, it's because preceding those doubts and fears was a convoluted, complicated way of dealing with life. Things are complicated for them. They're so complicated. They got too much data running through their head. They are looking at everything from like 5,000 different perspectives. They're not being simple about life, about people, about situations. That simplicity, being a simple person, which sounds bad when you say it that way, but
Not a simpleton.
not a simpleton. We're talking about be simple. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example of people who just come to me with just like so much complicated, like when you're creating a lot of drama and
You
a
don't
lot
understand.
of like.
You don't understand. No one understands. It's that mindset also.
It's laced with like a victim consciousness. Just overcomplicate stuff. And whenever you think like things are getting complicated, or you think your relationship is complicated, or you think your spiritual path is complicated, or you think things that are happening with the world is complicated, so you're already disconnected. You're already gonna now eventually go into the zone of doubts and fears, which then creates chaos. So simplicity equals certainty, which leads to success. Complicated thinking leads to doubts, which leads to chaos. Now I want to talk about what leads to simplicity. So is everybody following me here? There's a branch. We're branching out. What leads to simplicity is just one tool I'm going to give. Simplicity was the concept. Now I'm going to give you the tool. I've learned that the way we process information will determine whether we go down the simple route or the complicated route. How do you process information? You got to break things down to, when you hear stuff, see stuff, or even feel stuff, you got to break it down. For example, if someone says to you, I hate this person, I think they're the worst person in the world. That's a statement, right? You hear this statement.
Only from my children.
I hear it all day long. Someone has something to say about somebody. But you hear this, and then you take that, and you just digest this idea that this person, let's say John, is the worst person in the world. You have to break that down. To say, wait a minute, what do you mean he's the worst person in the world? Does he do anything good? Does he do anything bad? You have to break it down. When you hear statements and you just accept them, this becomes like a virus that creates a complicated set of, it becomes a mishmash inside your own system. So if someone tells me, John is a horrible person, I say, oh, stop right there. Can you be more specific? You just made a statement. Why are they horrible? What's good about them? What's bad about them? All of a sudden, this person will now break down. Well, John's not a horrible person. He just did one thing to upset me. And then, well, tell me a good thing that John did. Well, John has 6 other good qualities. Why this is important is you're breaking down information and it's organized now in your consciousness. When things aren't organized and it's all a mishmash, this eventually leads down to confusion and then doubts and then chaos. In the same way that our teachers used to tell us that if you want to have certainty, clean your room, organize your house. If you have a physical mess outside of you where everything is not in its place and it's all just like an amoeba of junk in your house, eventually this brings you also doubts and confusion in your head. So the way your physical reality is, that's also going to lead into your consciousness. So what I like to do is I like to break down information and not just take what people say or whatever I hear or whatever I read at face value, because that is the beginning of what leads to confusion and doubts. Did you understand? You have to face that you're not understanding what I'm saying.
No, I'm always so impressed at how completely differently we're wired and how I would never even think to or go to that kind of breakdown.
Well, I think that's why people like to listen to us,
for
because
sure.
we both
I'm
speak to two different types of audiences.
I'm sitting here really in awe and admiring your methodology, because I could never, I don't know.
You weren't going to go there. That's not the notes you wrote down.
No, I have 4 pages of notes. I do have the word simple, of course, because that's key, but wouldn't have gone there. But really impressed.
Well, there's other ways to get to simplicity. That is one method I wanted to share with our audience. Well, and I'll elaborate on more, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I want to capture the people who may be sitting here going, wow, I never would have thought of that, David. Only because, I think a lot of us do feel like we have certainty in certain areas of life, right? Like, I know I'm a good fill in the blank there, or for many people, if they have confidence, and again, I'm going to make sure that I use a distinction between confidence and certainty. Many people are confident in their skills or their connection with the creator at work, but they feel uncertainty in their relationships. Some people have certainty in their relationships and have uncertainty about their health or their power outside of the home, let's say. And I would look for those areas this week in which your lack of certainty shows up, where you feel the need to micromanage or control, or where you have fear or anxiety that sometimes can paralyze you, because there is the energy this week is supporting us to strengthen that, especially tonight and tomorrow. We have this, which is Monday night and through Tuesday night, we have this extreme boost of powerful energy to lift us up into a place. It's like when you're playing a video game and you get to some portal. Yeah, I'm thinking of Super Mario Brothers, of course, because that's how old I am.
Just 30 years ago.
That's how old I am. But you go into through a little portal that helps you skip 2 levels.
Yeah.
That's what we're experiencing. We can't experience from Monday night to Tuesday night, and that perception, or that I think that one of the key elements of certainty is to expect the unexpected. And that's one of the things that I want to invite everybody who's listening to ease into, is that mindset of, I don't know. And that's what I think is connected to spiritual simplicity, is maybe. Absolutely.
So what's your tool to achieve simplicity?
Well, I'll give you the story, and then you can translate it how you want. The thing that I think of all the time is this story. I'm pretty sure it's from the Far East. Don't ask me which country. About a farmer.
We're not talking about like Georgia.
No. I'm talking about like Asia, somewhere on the continent of Asia. There's a story, a folk tale about a farmer who a horse wanders onto his field, and all of his neighbors say, "Wow, you're so lucky. Now you have a horse to plow your fields with." And he goes, "Yeah, maybe I'm lucky." A few weeks later, the horse kicks his son and breaks his son's legs. So all the townspeople say, "Oh, that's such a tragedy." And he goes, "Well, maybe." And then a few weeks later, war breaks out in the country, and the army comes to enlist all the able-bodied men. And because his son has 2 broken legs, he can't go. Right. He can't enlist. So the townspeople say, "Oh, you're so lucky," and he goes, "Maybe." Right? Being in that place of, let's. You're
basically saying exactly what I just said.
Right? I know, but I'm saying
You're saying it in your own way.
Exactly. But I'm saying I don't go down to the break it down. Who's this? Da da da. What did he say? Did he do good things? It's more for me. It's more every moment that you're compelled to label bad or good.
That's the problem. As soon as you label it,
right?
Because when people say John's bad, I go, maybe.
Right.
Maybe he's bad. What's good about him?
Right.
I want to hear the whole story.
But
I want to hear all the facts. Let's organize the facts.
Exactly. That, to me, the labeling is what causes us to go up and down, to recognize moments as light or dark, terrible or awesome. And therefore, we live in this chaotic, not simple reality. And this, we have the ability this week to tap into that. The Kabbalists call it tree of life reality, but really what it is being in that zone of, you're not freaking out. You know that whatever's going on, even if it's bumpy, even if it's painful, even if it's causing every part of you, I don't know, it's funny to say it, but one of the things I see that happens to a lot of people, and people reach out to me, is that because our lives have, in a way, all over the world, been simplified. Right? Think about it. Being in this, COVID-19 era, we have to simplify, right? You can't have a schedule with 80 different things going on, because you got to stay put. You can only go to so many places. You can only see so many people these days. And therefore, it's really easy to hyper focus on the people that you do get to see. What's wrong with them? How they're irritating, how they're controlling, they're manipulating, they're, behaving badly, right? Everybody is under a magnifying glass because you're spending more time with them, or you're I don't know, definitely highlighting their lacks or deficiencies. This is really the like, to take that simplistic simplistic is not the right word either, to say, take the simplified perspective and say, yeah, you know what? I see what's not great in you, or I see what's not great about this situation, but I can choose to take the great part, to extract that goodness from the situation. And I feel like that's part of one of the elements of certainty is, yes, I can see what isn't right now, but I can also choose to see what is.
Well, I think we just touched on something very powerful that we speak about in Kabbalah. It's the concept of Mati velo Mati. It's a Kabbalistic phrase. But you're basically saying, we're both saying, that the secret of certainty is each one of us having the strength to hold two opposing forces inside of ourselves and not latching on. The balance of having two opposing forces and believing in both and not being committed to one side or the other is actually the secret of certainty. I know that sounds totally counterintuitive to what we're saying, but knowing that someone has a good side and a bad side and accepting both is the secret to certainty. Knowing that the situation you're in is painful and ugly while at the same time good and somehow making you stronger is the secret to certainty. As soon as people say, oh, this is good, you know they're going to fall. And the people who say, oh, this is horrible, well, for sure they're going to fall. It's the people who cannot hold on to two conflicting pieces of information and accept both that don't have simplicity. And there's a story from the Bible that we learn the deeper Kabbalistic meaning of it. But when Abraham basically is being told by the Creator two concepts, and it sounds confusing when he's being told it. One, he's saying that your son will be the leader of all future generations and eventually bring all this wisdom to the world. And then the Creator also says, you should sacrifice your son. So he's basically saying two conflicting messages to Abraham. And we all receive these conflicting messages all the time from every situation we're in. The ability to say, okay, I just heard two things. I just heard two commands. I just heard two different things you want me to do. I'm going to put that in the certainty box. I'm going to accept both of them as being true, and I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to live in the now. I'm going to find a way right now to reveal whatever light I can now without being committed to one side being the right or the other, because it's all about perspective. And people who can hold on to two perspectives at the same time and not let that take them down or drain them, this is the recipe for certainty. It sounds like a hard concept to digest. I don't know if it's coming out right.
Well, no, I think that you're...
This is what we talk about. This is what we study all the time.
You're spot on, and I do think it's very clear. I also want to make sure that everyone who's listening realizes certainty isn't a plateau you reach. Life is about constantly strengthening your certainty. So that's why, there are Kabbalists who teach that every test or every moment is a test to strengthen your certainty. Every moment. And in the car, what I was going to say before is I was thinking about, like, for me, where is my opportunity to grow in certainty right now? Not in the big picture and but where, and I was thinking about myself. I don't personally worry too much about the future. Like, I don't watch the stock market, and I don't, I'm not concerned about, I think a lot of people out there, especially in this time, are thinking about the bigger picture, what's going to be, how's it going to end, etc. My worry is, how are we going to fit in the car? Right. Like, I worry about the silly, and obviously those things don't keep me up at night, but it's like I trust the Creator in the big things. It's the little things that I need to strengthen my certainty in. We have a class that's, tomorrow night. I'm worried about how, is all the technology going to work? Like my go-tos are in the minutia, not in the bigger picture stuff. And maybe I'm the opposite of most people. Most people are worried about the bigger picture things. How are we going to survive? Is the world going to come to an end? When's the vaccine coming? I know it's going to be fine. I'm more worried about the day-to-day, but that's what's puncturing the hole in my bigger picture bubble. That my opportunity is in those moments to invite the Creator, to invite the light and say, you know what? It's going to be fine. I know it's going to be fine. And one of the beautiful teachings that the Kabbalists have around certainty is, if I know it's going to be fine in the end, why not live in that reality now? It's already fine. Even if I have all the good reasons in the world to worry right now. Paul posted a question I've actually heard, I've seen posted in the last few shows is, you can take care of yourself, wear the mask, put the gloves on, sanitize everything. But if other people aren't as responsible and their actions could affect you, how can you not be worried? How can you not be afraid? What would you say?
I would say all that sounds exhausting, and it's just too much information. It's just way too much information because who's right? This one's right. That one's right. This could happen. That could happen. At some point, you have to just decide how you're gonna live your life, how you're gonna plant your seeds, and I would say the other thing is we can't be afraid of failing, because this was the point I was just going to make. Because the other recipe for certainty, people who don't have certainty are usually people who aren't trying and people who aren't making the effort to fail. Right? We have to look forward towards.
I have that on
you
my
have
list
that?
of things. Well,
you got to fail. There's no way to have certainty unless you fail.
it's not just that. It's that, David was talking before about being believing in both, knowing that both are possibilities, or, everything is in a way right or has its place. Let's put it that way. Fair is an opinion, not a fact. But as you look at, let's say you do have two options and you're not sure which way to go. Certainty is listening to your inner voice, going with one, and knowing that if it's not the right place, not the right option, not the right person, not the right choice, that's also for your good. Exactly. You'll handle it. You'll rise above. There's no right or wrong. It's not black and white. It's not good or bad. And I have seen thousands upon thousands of people who, let's say, took that risk, made a choice. It wasn't the right thing, but because of their certainty, they were shown it and they were able to do the best thing for them in that moment. But making a choice and being worried that you made the wrong choice basically determines you made the wrong choice.
A lot of people don't like to make choices until they have certainty, and that's a mistake. You have to make an educated choice, knowing that every choice will always be made with uncertainty, with doubt. But once you make that choice, you have to just be committed to it and say, I'm committed to what I have certainty about is the fact that I need to make a choice. I don't know if this is going to be right or wrong, but stalling and being consumed by fear and worry, all that does is it perpetuates a chaotic environment, and you're never going to be led to certainty. So I think what's powerful, because someone asked me recently about, well, how do you become successful in, selling something? It was selling a product. How do you become successful? And the answer that all entrepreneurs give is you got to test it. You got to test this. You got to test that. How do I know what's going to work? How do I know what advertisement's going to work? Well, you got to test 20 of them. 19 will fail, and then you find the one that's going to work. And you know what? That one's only going to work for 7 days. You got to try another one. So you got to keep testing stuff. Those who are testing, who are spending the money to test, who are willing to take the ego hit to test. In relationships, it's kind of the same thing. You have to learn about who you are. You have to test it. Someone recently was depressed, and they're asking me how to get out of depression. And I think what's amazing is I told them, you should stay in your depression. You should just stay in it because you're testing it. Try it out. See if it works for you. Why are you trying to get out of your depression so quick? Why are you trying to get out of your pain so quick? Go into it, explore it, feel it, and then decide for yourself if this is the way you want to live your life. Because people who keep going back to, if you keep going back to similar painful situations, similar conversations, similar things keep happening to you, it's because you're going to that negative place and it's painful, so you're immediately jumping out of it. Sometimes it's very good to just test it. Go right into it, feel it, experience it, dwell in the darkness, in the swamp, and know that you're choosing to experience this so that you can ultimately make a choice to be a whole new human being, be a different person. So I think people are just afraid to take that first step, commit to something because they think that, well, that's the way it's going to be forever. Or if I make a mistake, I'm a failure, or whatever story that we tell ourselves. It's totally okay. Everything can be changed. Everything can be renewed. Everything can be fixed. Don't worry about it. Make the step, and then you'll have more certainty after you fail.
It's interesting because the Kabbalists say that Even in a divorce, there can be light.
That's right.
And that to me was always a lesson of, like, nothing is irreversible. Nothing can't be changed. And there, someone was asking a question about their kids, doing, what's the word? Participating in risky behaviors.
What, the kid was participating?
Yeah, like teenagers doing
like what?
Drugs.
Okay.
So I want to make it also clear that certainty isn't trusting the Creator and crossing an 8-lane highway, knowing you're going to make it to the other side because God is with you, right?
That's not certainty.
That's not certainty. Certainty is, I know that I'm with the light and the light is with me, and that's what's guiding my choice making, my decision making. I can walk, the extra 15 minutes to the crosswalk or whatever it is. I know that I have the strength to do that, and that's the right choice. And maybe that's a very, simplistic, that's the right use of the word, simplistic example. But the reality, the goal of having certainty isn't so that we're immune to challenge. I think what David's point was with the person who didn't want to feel his pain or wanted to alleviate his pain. The point is that in those darkest moments, that's where the light can be revealed. And I feel like that's an overarching theme that needs to be repeated over and over and over again, is that even though we think we enjoy the easy, we think we enjoy the smooth, the real growth and our greatness emerges when it's not smooth and when it's not easy and when it doesn't look simple, and we have to choose and fight ourselves to choose the simplicity. That's where the greatness is. That's where the light is. And that's where I think every great miracle, and when I say miracle, I don't only mean being saved from a car accident. I mean, every fabulous turn of events in our favor, right before it comes a huge letting go. And that knowledge that I can leap and there is a safety net, not that I'll be protected from feeling bad, but that I will be guided no matter what.
Let's summarize some of the points that we talked about in terms of certainty. I think these are such powerful points because when you crack the code of certainty, you've cracked the code of happiness. We talked a lot about simplicity, and everyone will approach simplicity differently. One of my methods is to avoid anything that is drama or confusing or just too much data.
David and I are allergic to drama.
As soon as sometimes people just start telling me about something dramatic that happens, and I just have to stop them and say, I don't care about any of the details. What's the point? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? Because a lot of times people just want to data dump. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in a data dump. I want to know the facts, and let's separate the good from the bad, and let's accept that there's a good and bad. And we have to accept that. You're never going to be able to be in a relationship unless you accept that there's a good and bad in your partner. I think sometimes people are have unrealistic expectations. What's that show? What's that Saturday Night Live skit? Something expectations.
Great Expectations.
No, it's not. It's Lowered Expectations.
Oh,
yeah.
Great Expectations is the real.
Is
company.
the real one? And then there was I think the Saturday Night Live skit was Lowered Expectations. I think you got to accepting the fact that the power of your partner or the power of anything in this world is that it has a good and bad side to it. And the sooner you can accept that, you are a powerful person. You will now have certainty, because it's when you're hooked to something is really good or something is really bad, you're setting yourself up for a fall, and you're being unrealistic, because that's not how the world works. We live in what's called the tree of knowledge, good and bad, which means that the DNA of good and bad exists within everything. People want the tree of life, which is all good. I get that. We have to earn that. We're not there yet. So meanwhile, everything in this world has the DNA of good and bad. The sooner you can accept that, now you're on your path to certainty. That's the way you can love someone. That's the way you can accept other people. That's the way you can get out of your own selfishness when you start to realize, okay, there's a good and a bad. This person that I hate, well, why do I hate him? There's also a good side. What's the good side? Let's figure it out. Now you got both. Now you got certainty. Now you're a leader. So we talked about that. We talked about testing stuff, planting seeds, trying different things. Obviously, don't be reckless. I see people test stuff and spend all their money testing it. And now they have no more money. And even though they failed, now they don't have money to test again. So be smart about the way you test. But if you're not testing because you're afraid, you have ego fear.
No, you're waiting for it to be perfect. I think
yes.
people
You're
they don't date because they're waiting for the perfect person to date.
What did you do to earn the perfect person? Like no one's earned anything.
Sorry. Who is the perfect person?
the perfect person is 50% good and 50% bad.
There you go.
That's what we're determining today.
And what makes them perfect for you is that you can handle the 50% of them that isn't good.
Wait, say that again?
What makes them perfect for you is that the 50% of them that is bad is perfect for you.
You can see how it's perfect for you. You can see how it's perfect for you. That I love that. The perfect person is 50% good and 50% bad. Because who are we that we have earned 100% good?
No, but it also doesn't exist, David. Forget about that.
It doesn't exist because like attracts like. So if there's nobody in this world that's 100% good, there's nobody who's going to attract that 100% good as well. So lowered expectations.
Someone wrote here, it was Mad TV, not Saturday Night.
It was Mad TV?
Yeah.
You're right.
He's right.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to emphasize two other things that can help us this week.
Can we ask people to just help share our before we continue?
So one of the things I wanted to talk about was sharing. Okay. So definitely go.
No,
say what you wanted to say. No, well, I don't know if I'm going to say the same thing.
Well, I just want to say if our audience can help us out and share because they're sharing every week and our audience is growing and it's because of them. That's the best thing they can do for us is to share or to comment, to engage, but share this with a broader audience because we're getting a lot of new people every week.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that we organized with sharing in mind in honor of this week's cosmic windows and energetic support is that you can go to Kabbalah.com and we often talk about the Zohar in the class. That's, I think, our main text, the main source of what we share with you. Aside from our experience and things that other people we've known have experienced, the Zohar is our go-to, and you can get a Zohar on Kabbalah.com for free now.
There's no catch.
No catch.
People have donated the money already. Just pay for your own shipping, but people have donated the money. You can have a free full set, 23 volumes.
English translation.
With the English translation, which is the source of all our wisdom. It's the soul of the Bible. It's the most powerful text you can physically own. Even if you just owned it and put it in your house, it brings the energy of protection and healing. No catch. People have already donated the money. A certain amount of money donated. Just get your Zohar. You can get the black one. The black one is the one with no English translation.
No English translation.
All of it's in one volume. Or you can get the mini one. The mini book for healing, which is just volume 20 of the English Zohar, shrunk down into a pocket size.
So there's that. And the other thing, I wanted to make sure that part of a lot of what we said today is very much in the head, how to change your thinking. And I want to speak a little bit about the heart part because it's very hard to, I think a lot of people, their certainty comes from facts and proof and experience, right? So the way that the Kabbalists explain it is that you have a test, you go through a challenge, maybe somebody breaks your heart, and on the other side of it is Prince Charming. So you then have certainty in that area that having a broken heart can lead to good things. What David spoke about a student of his the other show who went through something similar, and after that can go on a speaking circuit, right? Lecturing circuit about how heartbreak equals soulmate, right? That's one way to achieve certainty, and we all have those moments, right? Now I no longer fear or worry about my connection to the Creator. The Creator has my back because I had a miracle in that area of my life. Or it can be, I know a lot of people who struggle with having kids. They have a kid and then their certainty is strengthened in that area, right? Or even in business, right? Person does the testing, as David said, something works, and they, again, to me, that's confidence. But in a spiritually minded person, that also strengthens they know that they are connected to the Creator in that area of their life. Life is a series of tests, right? Now knowing that there may be an area in my life that I labeled before today's show as bad or dark, or I'm weak in that area. The beginning of the strengthening of my certainty in that area starts with me tapping into my inner voice. I think a lot of the world's religions or even spiritual paths talk about how the creator or power or source or the universe is out there, and we need to become holier or more pure or more connected. And Kabbalah teaches that that spark is inside of each one of us. We have all the answers are within. So when you say to yourself, well, what should I do? I don't know what I should do. You do know what you should do. All you need to do is to tap into that inner knowledge, that inner voice, that spark inside you. And again, through that certainty of, I know the light has my back. I know that I'm connected. And if I'm making the wrong choice right now, or if there's something I don't see, I want to be shown it. I want to see it. And therefore, again, level up in my certainty. So recognize that all of those, it's very hard to, let's say if you were to test yourself, I have absolute certainty in my abilities or in my relationship. All the other areas where you're lacking certainty, those are the only areas where you can reveal light, where you can grow. So focus this week on listening more to that inner voice, that beacon inside you that, E.T. had it, right? The heart light, you have it too. Use it, because that's really that's not trusting your ego or your skill or facts. That's trusting the light inside you.
What's the meditation we can give to people? What's the meditation or the mantra that we can give? I have one for when you are hearing information, because you have to protect your consciousness. When information is coming at you, if you let it in, it can be poison. So for me, every time I hear something bad, it's maybe yes, maybe no. I'm sure both. That's my mantra, and that's where I leave it. What's your mantra for what you just shared?
Well, I don't have a mantra. Sorry to
a tool. Give them a tool.
Yeah, so I have a tool. What I like to do, and that's one of my practices in actually driving to the show, is I do a meditation that we call in the Yana B'Koach, the very quick 42-word mantra meditation.
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful.
I try to wipe out all of the chatter and banter and, what do I got to do and what's happening after the show, and I just wait to see what comes. And inevitably, that's where it comes. Sometimes it happens it often happens while I'm driving, if I'm honest, because I think driving is a form of meditation. Your conscious mind is focused on something, so your unconscious mind is untethered. You can have it. Sometimes people have it in the shower, right? Autopilot, you have your routine. So your body is busy, your soul can download really powerful things. For me, the maybe story, I didn't think about it like a mantra, but that being in the middle, like you have the scales, and standing on top of the scales and being like, either is true, either is possible. It's a reactive thing for me, because I have a lot of Libra in my chart. So I kind of sit there and go, yeah, maybe, yeah, I don't know. And I can stay there if I'm not careful. So for me, it's more about strengthening that trust in the broadcast from within, testing it, right? Because it requires action. And that's a big part of this week, is going to ask us to take action with certainty. Knowing that if I take action with certainty and there's a better action for me to take, I will find it out.
You said something powerful, that the unconscious mind, because every part of us, our conscious and unconscious mind, is looking for pleasure. So if we're not focused in the now and drawing our intention of our conscious and unconscious mind to the now to plant a seed, it will eventually go out there and look for some form of pleasure. And that's when people start getting confused, which I was going to share this with your husband, because I know he's our dream expert. But I was reading something about why when people start to have dreams about relationships from their past or things from their past that were maybe pleasurable, it's an indication that during the day they're not being stimulated. So because the unconscious mind needs stimulation, it starts to draw upon memories in the past in the dream state, which I found that to be very interesting. What just goes to show is that we're constantly seeking to receive pleasure. And if you're not focusing yourself and guiding yourself in the moment to stay attentive, to connect to the reality that you're experiencing right now, which is simplicity, then your conscious and unconscious mind will start to go everywhere and start to go into the future and go into the past. And we'll start also listening to all the news and all the information and try to take as much data as possible because it wants to be stimulated. So either you stimulate yourself or yourself is going to go out there and start to look for stimulation, which is where the confusion starts.
Well, okay, so I'm going to give you the flip side of that coin. If you don't relate to the concept of pleasure seeking, you probably relate to the concept of relief seeking. There's a lot of people out there that don't give themselves the permission to seek pleasure, so they're constantly looking for relief. Relief is a form of pleasure.
Well, aren't we saying the same thing?
Yes, I'm just saying
if they're suppressing that, they're going to go take it in a way that's not right.
Right. So I'm just making it clear because personally, I don't consider myself a pleasure seeker. I've never been hedonistic or I don't know.
We're talking about just some form of gratification.
Right. So I'm saying if you don't relate to that pleasure seeking mentality, you're probably a relief seeker. You're willing to put in the effort because you know you're going to be able to relax or enjoy or check out later.
Well, I always tell people when you're eating your food, you should really enjoy it and focus on it, because if you don't enjoy the things that you're permitted to enjoy, you will start to look for things that you're not permitted to enjoy. And then that's where the deviance comes from.
Right.
So because who are the deviant people? The people who aren't taking pleasure in the things that they should be taking pleasure in. So they look for it elsewhere. Like spending time with your kids and you're being focused with them. Or if it's in your business to truly enjoy it and appreciate it. To when you're eating your food. You're eating, it's a good thing. Enjoy it. Don't have your head somewhere else. Enjoy it, take that pleasure in. Otherwise, you'll look for pleasure in ways that are deviant.
We're going to get a lot of comments about that.
Well, there's the interaction we're looking for.
Well, on that note, boys and girls, we want to thank you for joining us. The Weekly Energy Boost is available on Facebook, IGTV, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You get your energy from.
You get your deviance from.
This is a permitted form of pleasure.
Yes.
Our show.
And it's
you
also,
should enjoy it.
You can also share it because it's healthy.
It's healthy. People should enjoy our show. Otherwise, they'll enjoy things they shouldn't.
Exactly. So thank you again for joining us. If you're listening after the live broadcast, we invite you to also continue to comment and post questions. We go back periodically during the week to answer those questions. I hope that everybody who's listening gets onto Kabbalah.com. The link is in the comments. Or if you're listening again on the podcast, email us and we'll send you the link. We have lots of Zohars to share, and part of our commitment to making a difference, especially in this time, that's a big part of it. So have a fabulous week. Share this show, share the Zohar, and we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.